Our group's project was Architecture, Civil Engineering, and Urban Planning degrees. What is engineering? Engineering can be defined as the use of scientific principles to design and build machines, structures, and other items, including bridges, tunnels, roads, vehicles, and buildings. Despite this very technical definition, we know that engineering is so much more than just scientific principles and math. Modern engineers have to be creative and design-oriented people who can work well in groups. Working as a part of a team to better the world around you, improve existing designs, and create solutions are the foundations of engineering.
Under engineering, there are four broad engineering groups. There is chemical, civil, electrical, and mechanical. Engineers work both in the office and in the field. The fields will look different based on the job. A civil engineer could work both in the office on 3D software while also overseeing building projects, while a chemical engineer could work in a lab developing and studying chemicals. The field of engineering is very broad, but you can use your interest to pick a degree that could take you anywhere.
ABBET is the accredited board for engineering and technology, and it's needed and very useful in an engineering degree. A school needs to be ABBET accredited for automatic qualification for a license after getting a bachelor's. And if a school does not have ABBET accreditation, you will need to take a test to prove you have the knowledge to get a license in that field.
Architecture. Architecture is both the process and the product of planning, designing, and constructing buildings or other structures. Architectural works in the material form of buildings are often perceived as cultural symbols and as works of art. Architecture may be very customer-based, but you're still able to use your imagination when coming up with your next design. Under architecture, there are 8 main categories. There's commercial, which is high-rise buildings and stores, residential, which is homes and apartment complexes, and there's sustainable, which focuses more on the materials used and can pretty much be applied to any type of architecture. There's industrial, which is based around factories and warehouses, and conservation, which focuses on conserving monuments and historic landmarks, and landscape, which is based around the design of the landscape around the buildings, and urban, which is the social design or the large-scale aspect, and interior, which is centered around the interior design of all structures. And with an architecture degree, you're open to all of those categories. And some local examples from architecture from Seattle, Washington is the Rainier Tower, the Bullitt Center, the Smith Tower, and the Amazon Spheres. The major requirements for an architecture degree are you must acquire a professional degree from an accredited program. And the program must be an NAAB, which is the National Architectural Accrediting Board. The NAAB degrees consist of a 5-year undergraduate or a 3-year graduate program. In an architecture major, you will have a lot of math, science, computer science, and art. You will also have to go through exams like the Architecture Registration Exam, also known as the ARE, and you'll have to go through state licensing, which differs between the states. The work environment. Most of an architect's time is spent at a work office or a personal study designing their next creation. Time in the field is spent consulting with clients and reviewing projects to ensure it meets their needs and making any changes necessary. As an architect, you choose what style of architecture to focus on, and the firm will provide you with your projects. And the career life. As of 2020, median pay was $82,320. And the job outlook from 2020 to 2030 is only 3%, which is a lot lower than the national average. Architects have the opportunity to get a higher pay, work up the ranks, and obtain a management position just from overall work experience. But you can also open your own firm or partner in a firm, which is the best way to gain publicity and more income. As architecture is an engineering and design career, an associate's degree in art or science is recommended. TCC offers an Associate of Arts and an Associates of Applied Sciences. Both of these will transfer to University of Washington for undergraduate bachelors, where you can even go on to pursue a master's in more technical areas of architecture, like design technology or history and theory of architecture.
So if you're a freshman going into college, civil engineering is something you might be interested in, so you got to know the basics. Civil engineering is a discipline that focuses on the design, supervision, building, maintenance, and operation of construction systems and projects in the public and private sector. Civil engineers focus on projects including roads, tunnels, airports, buildings, bridges, dams, and water supply and treatment systems. There's more, but I don't really know what they are. So, how do beavers make a bouncy dam? They use spring water. Let's be beavers and build dams. So there are some civil engineering subcategories. Here's a lot of them with their average salaries, but I'm going to talk about some of the cooler ones to me. Construction and structural engineering, they make sure buildings don't fall on you. They're pretty important. And they get to do the work. They work with materials engineers to know what to put in your building, which won't make it fall. Materials engineers are actually really cool because they work with like multiple different kinds of concrete. I didn't know there was more than one kind of concrete. And they make sure you're using the best one for the product. And transportation engineers, they're really important to me because you know what? If they don't do their job, you hit a lot of potholes. So here are some local examples of engineering in Washington, mostly Seattle. There is the Tacoma Narrows Bridge, the Space Needle, which was built for the 1962 World Fair. There's the Grand Coulee Dam, which is one of 1,000. Go Beavers. And the SeaTac Airport, which was built in 1944, which is one of, if not the biggest airport in the Pacific Northwest. So, major requirements and certifications. A bachelor's in civil engineering or one of its specialties, or a degree from a program accredited by Abbott to earn a professional engineering license. Having multiple degrees and certifications creates more employment opportunities for promotions, and you got to make the dough so you get more money. As Master Oogway once said from Kung Fu Panda, yesterday is history, tomorrow is a mystery, but today is a gift. That is why it is called the present. Use your present to get started because these things take time. It's a long road to being certified. So the work environment and day in the life of an engineer. This is a mock schedule of a structural engineer. You're basically working either on site or in an office. At 7:30, you could arrive to the office and designing concrete parking structures and seeing what will work, especially in the event of an earthquake or any natural disaster that could happen. At 10 o'clock, you might go to a site visit, review projects with on-site workers, and maybe review necessary materials and check progress, do progress checks. And from like 2:30 to 6:30, you go back to the office maybe, looking at structural integrity of projects, and maybe starting new ones on how to mix certain architectural designs with building plans using ETABS modeling and testing. There's a lot of trees in Washington. You can always use your thinking tree. For additional information, the projected growth for civil engineers from 2020 to 2030 is predicted to be 8%. The average pay of a civil engineer is $88,000. That's a lot. And civil engineers put 2.8 out of 5 stars on how happy they were, which was not actually that great. That was in the lower 18% of people. So Dr. Doofenshmirtz was an engineer and he had an arch nemesis, so might want to look into that. Civil engineers generally work 40 to 50 hours a week, which is a pretty long week. So if you want this career, you might want to look into your long-term plans for how much time you want to spend at home or in the office. How can TCC get you there? How can TCC get you to having a degree in civil engineering? TCC offers an Associates of Science in Civil and Mechanical Engineering, and they also offer university transfer guides for many universities in the state of Washington. They offer course distribution lists so you know what you need to take and when, if you want to do it in a certain amount of years. And they also offer Abbott resources, which are really helpful.
Urban planning. Urban planning is the application of engineering to metropolitan and city regions for creating infrastructure, designating the use of resources, and providing a connection for citizens to the government. Urban planning focuses on working in government or private office to create policy and design projects for the betterment of a community. Urban planning involves close contact with all aspects of a project's development, from the design and engineering, gathering public input, and political approval, and then the physical construction. As with all engineering degrees, urban planning must be certified through a board, which is the Planning Accreditation Board. There are 3 of these certified programs in Washington State, at the University of Washington, Seattle, Western Washington University, Bellingham, and Eastern Washington University in Cheney. Urban planning degrees require a 4-year bachelor degree and a 2 to 3-year master's program highly recommended for employment. In college, you'll be taking high-level math and science courses as with any engineering degree, but urban planning has a much more unique and diverse path. Specifically at the University of Washington, but also with many other programs, planning majors will take a series of government, community, ethics, and humanity courses. These connect the more technical side of the degree to the people that you'll actually be designing for. Even before earning your degree, urban planning majors often have internship experience and potential job offers before graduation. After graduating, urban planners are heavily involved with public engagement, where you need to design areas and projects based on the public's needs. Engineers and planners tend to work with local government first, then move on to private sector work as they gain more accreditations and recognition. Because cities are developing all across the world, urban planning degrees can take you nearly anywhere in the United States and beyond. As there are 38,000 urban planners employed in the United States, about half of them work for local cities and governments, earning about $77,000 a year. The other chunk of the 38,000 are in private sector, which gain a considerable bonus at almost $90,000 a year. The 2 highest paying industries are in the federal government and social advocacy organizations, which can earn upwards of $100,000 a year as urban planners. How can TCC get you there? TCC provides an associate in civil, environmental, or constructional engineering, which can be transferred to many universities, including the 3 I previously mentioned. This is an at minimum 30 credit course, which gives you a direct path to architecture, planning, engineering, all sorts of degrees. And that is our source.